Alright, time for this week's lap guide. I've already done the camera this week, very prepared. Okay, so obviously the last corner is important for qualifying the setup for the lap, so get out nice and wide, and then it's quite a big lift, and we'll talk about it properly later on, but it's a nice big lift, and then just a kind of case of finding a reference point to pick the throttle back up. Right, so heading down into turn 1, you're obviously going to want to use all the curb on the left here. So you see, I don't drive all the way down the curb. Whether that would hamper your top speed or not, I don't know. But I just kind of head over to the curb as just before I'm going to turn in, not in a way that kind of pitches the weight to the right of the car and then immediately to the left. So kind of a gradual drift out to the left. And then it's possible to brake late for turn 1, so it's kind of what makes it a good overtaking opportunity. Other than the big slipstream you just had to, but you can brake late, or you can brake early and softly, which is what you would do on a normal, on a fast lap, or just on a lap on your own. Brake early and soft so that you slowly pitch the weight forward and you've got a lot of control over the front end of the car. So I found in my few laps, 30 laps, that you don't really want to hit the apex here. You want to actually hit the curb, because it will bounce the car and it's such a high-speed corner. You don't want anything to unsettle the car. So we're trailing in. Usual thing, just tiny amounts of brake pressure, just to keep most of the tyre free to do the turning. Pick up the throttle and run nice and wide. And then I personally don't put too much emphasis on getting back over to the right here. Just kind of get out to the middle somewhere. And then I like to kind of double apex this. So come in, clip the apex here. It actually does help sometimes to just grab a little bit of the curb because it just pulls the car around to the left. But kind of apex drift out, and then I was shifting down to second just to get a last tiny bit of rotation. You almost want to sort of over-rotate the car because as soon as you pick up the throttle that it's going to start to understeer. So if you can compensate for that by over-rotating just at the very last phase before you pick up the throttle, that will help you out, because running wide is a big problem here. There's a lot of corners that you can so easily just dip a wheel off the track and end your race. So you'll also see I'm not picking up the throttle all the way. So let me just quickly go back because I've forgotten about gears again. So obviously down to 4th here. And then down to 3rd. And then, as I said, just dipping down into 2nd, picking up the throttle, but not full throttle because that's just too much understeer too soon. And then full throttle when we realise that I go back up to 3rd as well. So I'm sort of into 2nd for the rotation, pick up the throttle, and then straight back up to 3rd. And then as soon as you need a reference point for getting back to full throttle. That means you won't run off the track. So stay to the right for Stoner. It's flat in about 99% of other cars, but not flat for us. So just sort of breathe the throttle. I bet I'm flat through. Yeah, I'm flat through there on this lap. Okay, excellent. It's flat for us too. Just prove myself wrong. So if you get the line right, you can take this flat. So if you cut quite a lot of the apex, a lot of my laps I was lifting just so you don't end up all the way over to the right for Honda. And then braking, get the car straight and sort of point it to the outside of the corner. Because we're gonna be on the right because we just come through Stoner. So when we brake, we want to point the car where we want it to end up for turning because we don't want to have to make that adjustment while we're braking. So I hit the brakes just after that. So from inside the car, that probably that feels like on that marker, but it isn't. It's just after it. And the car will be squirming around and wriggling out of control down into Honda. All the way down to first gear, clip the apex, and then when you jump back on the throttle, the rear is probably you're gonna either four-wheel drift or the rear will try and come round. So just be ready for that. And then I'm braking on the end of the last blue bit of the curb. Back down to... Do I go to third here? So first, second, third. Yeah, okay, so back down to second. And then you'll see a little extra jab of the brake here just to almost like deliberately lock the rears just briefly. So I'm braking normally in a straight line, heavy pressure in the straight line, and then as I turn in, less pressure, tiny bit of pressure, and then just right at the end of the turning phase before I want to get back on throttle, I'm just giving it a jab of the brake to give it a bit of extra rotation. It's kind of the same as Southern Loop, but a different way of doing it. And then back on the throttle. Again, this is another place where you can run wide so easily. I actually discovered, which is new information to me, that if you do get two wheels into the dirt here and it will sort of pull you off the track, if you just drive straight down, I'll just quickly show you. If you drive straight down here, past the tyres and back out onto the track over there, you don't get a slowdown. So you only lose about, obviously you drive through the grass, so you lose time. You lose about a second and a half, 2 seconds. But it might be a better option than trying to force the car back onto the track here with a bunch of cars behind you, you know. So it isn't a slowdown to do that. It might be a better option depending on what's going on behind. And sometimes it's just generally easier because you're trying to turn and drive back uphill on the grass. So something to at least bear in mind. And then through Hayshed, get right out onto the curb on the left. Leaving it in fourth. Just to breathe off the throttle here, just to help the car make that corner. Because you can end up all the way out here, but it's not ideal because we're going left soon. And then so we're jumping on the brakes. There's not a lot of reference for that, really. You get a feel for it after a while. I guess there's that dark patch where you can start to see the racing line. See that from here, that sort of rubbered in section. So that's kind of a reference. Down to third and then hug the inside, and then as you sort of crest the hill, the first crest, then you can pick the throttle back up briefly. I don't like to go much beyond the sort of centre of the track here. And then down into MG, it's very easy to lock because as you're braking, you're also going over the crest, so the whole car will go light. Sometimes it's better to brake at the top of the hill, slightly release the brake, and then brake again once you're over the crest. As you see me there, I have a little bit of a wiggle, just as the car unloads. So then down to first, and then hug the inside on the exit to set up the left, because it's way more important than getting a good exit from that corner. So playing right, and then the apex for the left is the last part of the curb, the flat bit of the curb, basically, because this bit's got quite a big elevation on it. So that very last bit of the curb is where you want to apex, and then I do the thing I was talking about, just dip some tyres into the dirt. And then, so that slightly compromised my setup for the last corner. Normally you would want to be right out on the blue curb, so then it's no braking, but there's a big lift. Play around with the throttle, get a feel for whether you're understeering or not. And then, same as how we started the lap, sort of late apex, and then pick up the throttle. It's again this kind of where the curb goes from this type of curb to the flat type. That's kind of a good reference for picking up the throttle. And then use all the curb on the exit. Come in third there. I keep forgetting about gears. So this would be second, third. No, so fourth for the last corner. So first, no, that was the shift to second. So that's third. Okay, yeah, third, fourth. So then just leave it in fourth. And then just from here, just use the accelerator to go faster. Alright, hopefully that was some help to you guys.